Hi guys, welcome to another QQ. This is Second Perspective. My name is Paul Weston, and I don't think they've ever actually seen you
I
on
am
camera.
finally making an appearance. I am Nathan. You might remember me. It's been a long time, but I'm back.
Yeah, so finally we've managed to get him onto a QQ with the camera, so now you guys actually know what he looks like. What film are we doing today, man?
We are doing Sicario. This is Denis Villeneuve's new movie. It just actually released in limited release a couple weeks ago, but it just came out on Friday. This is Denis Villeneuve, who just did Prisoners. It's written by Taylor Sheridan. So let's get into it.
Yeah.
So brief synopsis: it's starring Emily Blunt, and she is an FBI agent who, after an incident at the beginning of the movie, gets involved in an interagency manhunt against the cartels. This movie's all about the drug war that's happening in Mexico and sort of spilling over across the border into the U.S. She meets Josh Brolin's character. His name's Matt, and he's conducting his own sort of operations, and it's kind of shady, like what's going on, and Emily Blunt gets wrapped up in it, and it goes down a very dark and interesting path.
Dark to say the least.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't want to say too much more, because a lot of what makes this movie work, I think, is not necessarily knowing where it's going. Like, Emily Blunt's character, she's very much in over her head for most of this movie, and we're experiencing it through her eyes.
Yeah, and I mean, one of the biggest, I think, strengths or interesting aspects of this film is that I literally was interested every single minute of this film. I think I was pretty tired when we saw this film, as Nathan remembers. But as soon as the film started, I was wired. And I think for maybe like 15 seconds of the film, I kind of dozed off and like looked away, which often happens, I don't know, 5, 6, 7 times every other film I watch. But this one, I was literally glued the entire time. I'm actually curious, what grade did you give this film?
I think, for me, this is probably the best film I've seen this year. I'm going to give it an A+.
Oh,
I'm
wow,
right to
an
the
A+.
top. Yeah, I absolutely love this movie. There's very little I can say about it that I didn't like or that I question. I think it's a very strong movie. It's honestly like it's an experience. Like, the first 45 minutes of this movie are so intense, and you don't really know what's happening. This is what I was saying about the plot, is you're kind of just thrown into the situation with Emily Blunt's character. Her name's Kate, and she's not sure what's going on, and you as the viewer aren't entirely sure, but you know that there's some really shady things happening here. And it's very intense. It takes you along for the ride, quite literally, and throws you in the deep end.
Yeah, I think the way that it executes not the viewer not knowing enough, or it's not the fact they don't know enough, it just knows that it gives you like little breadcrumb pieces of information, but just enough that you are curious, but not like totally flustered or flabbergasted and be like, I don't know what's going on. Because when you do that, you run the risk of the audience basically being like, okay, I've clocked out, I don't know what's going on. And every time you watch something on screen, it's relevant to you, even if you don't know some of the key parts, right?
I think Denis Villeneuve is really good at this too. And I mean, we saw in Prisoners, there's a lot of like, you got the base elements, but you're not really sure which character might be responsible for what's going on, but you're slowly given these little pieces of information that lead eventually to the overarching plot. And it takes a long time, but he's really good at building that tension through the visual symbolism, through the camera movements and the actors, their subtle things. Like, it's very intense.
Well, and I think that's one thing I think was especially good. I really enjoyed Prisoners, which if you haven't seen, you should go watch as well. Also, it's very similar to Sicario in the sense, like, it's just that it's super violent, but it's totally worth it. But what Sicario did even better than Prisoners for me was the cinematography and the sound. It's just the actual filmmaking techniques. I can already think of 4 or 5 distinct shots very clearly in my head that were not only very pretty and interesting to look at, but also were totally relevant in a thematic way. There's one shot with like a horizon and people sort of, it's like almost silhouettes, and people start walking down to the horizon and they almost disappear, and it seems like almost they're, as Nathan has said to me a number of times, like they're descending into hell, which this film essentially does.
The movie is just kind of like one long metaphor for descending into almost like madness. Like, it's the realization of the reality that you live in, and just how ugly it can be.
I honestly, when Nathan and I were trying to get this video ready, I was trying to think of some weaknesses. The closest thing I could really think of is it would be very like taste oriented. Like, if you don't like violence.
Yeah, we should tell you that right now. It's a very violent movie.
Absolutely.
And it's not violent in the sense that you might normally associate
it's not
violence.
Like Saw.
Yeah, you're not seeing like a lot of like it doesn't feel gratuitous, but at the same time there's some very it deals with a lot of heavy subject matter, and it's
emotionally violent.
Yeah,
right?
it
like
is.
It it attacks you, right? Like I wanted there's some very clever ways that they show violence without even showing it. Sometimes they just do it through clever shots, and a lot of suggestive tactics, right? And like that's why like you don't install like you just see legs get chopped off and like heads chopped off, whatever. This is not like that. But yeah, I honestly I can't think of really a weakness other than either violence or if you don't like serious movies, or if you're not necessarily in the mood for it. Other than that, strangely enough, I wanted to give an A+ maybe, but like I always sort of had this sort of self-regulating thing. Like an A+ is something like it's like top 10 films ever, and I wouldn't be surprised in a week if I want to give an A+, but I'm just gonna be a little safe here and say it's like a very, very strong A.
Fair enough. Yeah, I mean I can't disagree. There's very little I find wrong. I think there is a sort of side storyline that happens. We're introduced to a character named Silvio, and he appears sort of irregularly throughout the movie, and I think maybe that might be a little predictable as to where that's going. Like, he doesn't show up enough for you to truly care about his storyline, but he shows up frequently enough that you probably understand where it's going. So I think maybe, if anything, that could have used a little bit of touching up or a little more love. But I think, yeah, everything about this movie was just stunning to me. And the cinematography of Roger Deakins, amazing, man. Like, he just makes the simplest shots a work of art. Everything's beautiful. The actors are all on their game here. I mean, this is a big cast. Emily Blunt, Josh Brolin, Benicio del Toro. I mean, let's talk about him. He's a very mysterious character here. And, I mean, before this movie was released, if you didn't know, there was already talks about a possible spin-off film about him. That's how interesting of a character he is. Very, very good acting by all these characters.
Yeah.
Very good stuff. I think Denis Villeneuve is quickly working his way up the ladder here.
Yes, he is, actually. Other than that, I think we're kind of bursting at the seams to actually talk about this film. There's plenty to dissect for us. So once you see the film, which you please, absolutely please go see this film. If you see one film, I would probably say this one. Go see it and then join us at the discussion. Anyways, again, this is Second Perspective. I'm Paul Weston.
I'm Nathan Smith.
All right, take care, guys.